A lonely man. A simple lunch. But something felt off. Out of nowhere, a dog appears. He barks non-stop, his eyes locked on the stranger eating on the street. People chuckle. Henry tries to ignore him. But the dog won't give up. He steps forward. Grabs Henry's sleeve. "What do you want, huh?" Henry grumbles. But this dog isn't playing around. He knows something. Something no one saw coming. Dog won't stop barking at a stranger eating on the street, and everything changes. What was this dog trying to say? And why did he choose Henry? Find out now. This story will stay with you. The sound of silverware clinking against plates filled the small corner restaurant. Henry, an older man with graying hair and tired eyes, held a warm sandwich in his hands. Ever since he lost his wife, eating out had become his only escape from loneliness. He sighed and lifted the sandwich, ready to take the first bite, when a loud, urgent bark cut through the restaurant's background noise. Henry frowned and looked toward the sidewalk. A large, golden-furred dog with piercing eyes stood there, staring straight at him. The dog let out a low growl, barking over and over, like he was trying to warn him about something. "Hey, buddy, what's your problem?" Henry muttered, trying to brush him off. But the dog didn't back down. Instead, he stepped closer, stopping right at the entrance of the restaurant, barking even louder. Other customers started noticing. Some laughed, others exchanged puzzled looks. Henry rolled his eyes and, determined to ignore the animal, lifted the sandwich once again. That's when the dog suddenly jumped forward and grabbed his sleeve with his teeth. The entire restaurant fell silent. "Hey! What the hell are you doing?" Henry shouted, trying to pull free. But the dog held on tight, his eyes locked onto Henry's with sheer desperation. The waiter stepped outside, wiping his hands on his apron. "That dog's been hanging around here for a few days, but no one knows where he came from. Want me to chase him off?" Henry looked at the dog again. Something about his stare felt off. He wasn't barking for food. He wasn't being aggressive. It felt more like a warning. A strange feeling twisted in Henry's stomach. Why was this dog so desperate to stop him from eating? The dog's grip on Henry's sleeve wasn't violent, but it was firm. His teeth didn't pierce the fabric, he just held on, as if trying to pull him away from something. Henry's heart pounded. Something deep inside him, a long-forgotten instinct, told him not to ignore this dog. Acqui esta tragiceo adaptata para Ingles Americano, mentendo a moco e fluides natural do texto. "What the hell do you want, huh?" Henry muttered, trying to push the dog away. But instead of backing off, the dog let out a low whimper and pulled again, this time even harder. People in the restaurant watched with curiosity, some laughing, others pulling out their phones to record. But Henry wasn't amused. Something in those golden eyes sent a chill down his spine. And then, without thinking, he stood up. The dog barked twice, as if confirming Henry had finally understood. Still gripping his sleeve, he started walking briskly down the sidewalk, pulling him along with determination. Henry hesitated, but a strange feeling of déjà vu washed over him. It was like he had lived this moment before. With each step, anxiety tightened his chest. The dog led him through narrow streets, turning corners like he knew exactly where he was going. Henry's breathing grew unsteady. The last time he felt a lump in his throat like this was 5 years ago. And then, they arrived at a park. It was simple, worn-out wooden benches, a small pond reflecting the cloudy sky. Henry came to a halt. That bench. That was where he used to sit every day with his wife, and with Max, the dog they had for almost 15 years. His stomach twisted. He hadn't stepped foot in this place since he lost everything. His eyes burned with unshed tears. But why had this dog brought him here? The dog finally let go of his sleeve and stopped in front of the bench, staring at Henry. His tail wagged slowly, and his eyes held a strange intensity, a familiarity that nearly stopped Henry's heart. It was impossible. But that look, it was just like Max's. Henry's legs felt weak. He stared at the dog in front of him, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. This couldn't be real. Max had been gone for years. And yet, here was this dog, with the same golden eyes, the same slight head tilt when confused, the same slow, deliberate wag of the tail. His heart pounded. "No, it can't be," he murmured, taking a hesitant step toward the bench. The dog didn't move. He simply watched Henry, waiting, patiently. Then, without warning, the dog stepped forward and, with careful precision, nudged Henry's leg with his nose. It was a small gesture, but it was enough. A shock ran through Henry's body. Max used to do that. Every time he wanted Henry to sit down. His breath caught. His knees buckled, and he sank onto the bench, his hands trembling over his lap. The dog sat beside him, just like Max used to. Then, slowly, he rested his head against Henry's leg. Hot tears rolled down Henry's weathered face. Max, the name slipped out in a whisper before he even realized it. The dog lifted his head and met Henry's eyes, letting out a soft whimper. Like he was answering. Like he was saying, "Yes, it's me." Henry choked on a quiet sob. He had never been a man to believe in things beyond reason. But here, sitting on this old bench full of memories, next to a dog that seemed to know everything about him, logic didn't matter anymore. Life had been cruel these past years, stripping him of everything he loved. But now, for some inexplicable reason, he had been given a gift. Henry ran his fingers through the dog's warm fur, feeling the steady rhythm of his breath. For the first time in years, the weight in his chest felt lighter. For the first time in years, he felt something other than loneliness. He felt hope. Henry sat there for a long time, feeling the warmth of the dog against his leg. Memories flooded back like a rushing river, the happy days with his wife and Max, the morning walks, the quiet moments they shared. He thought he'd never feel that again. But here he was, with a stranger who felt like anything but a stranger. Taking a deep breath, Henry wiped his eyes and looked at the dog. "Want to come with me?" His voice was shaky. The dog simply perked up his ears and wagged his tail. That was all the answer Henry needed. He gave a small smile, stood up, and began walking home. The dog followed without hesitation, as if he'd always been by Henry's side. They crossed the streets at an easy pace. Henry, who once avoided conversations, now felt comfortable enough to talk, to really talk. He told the dog about his lonely days, about everything he had lost, and how much he missed the past. And as crazy as it seemed, he felt like the dog understood every word. But as they turned the last corner before Henry's house, something unexpected happened. Across the street, a woman with short hair and a blue coat suddenly froze. Her eyes widened as she spotted the dog. Then, she started running toward them. "Cooper!" "Oh my God, Cooper!" Henry stopped dead in his tracks. "Cooper?" He turned to look at the dog beside him, who now seemed restless, ears pointed toward the woman. She rushed closer, her eyes brimming with emotion. "Where have you been, boy? I've been looking for you for weeks." Henry felt a sharp pang in his chest. This dog already had an owner. The dog looked up at Henry, then back at the woman. His gaze held something Henry couldn't quite understand. Henry's chest tightened. The woman knelt in front of the dog, wrapping her arms around him, her voice filled with relief and emotion. "I thought I'd never see you again." The dog wagged his tail, licking her face gently, but then turned to Henry. That look. The same depth, the same connection. Henry cleared his throat, trying to push down the lump forming there. "So, he's yours?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman nodded, still holding onto the dog. "Yes. He disappeared a month ago. I searched everywhere. His name is Cooper. I rescued him from a shelter a year ago. He's always been special, you know? Like he understands people better than any other dog." Henry lowered his gaze. Of course. Fate was just messing with him. For a moment, he had wanted to believe the impossible. But then, the woman's forehead creased, like she just remembered something. "Wait. You said you found him today, right?" Henry nodded. "Yeah. He showed up at the restaurant where I was having lunch. He wouldn't stop barking, wouldn't let me eat." Her eyes widened. Her breath hitched. She quickly pulled out her phone, scrolling frantically. Then, her face went pale. "Oh my God." Henry frowned. "What?" She turned the screen toward him. Henry felt his blood run cold. Local restaurant shut down after food poisoning scandal. His stomach twisted. The same restaurant where he had almost taken a bite of that sandwich just moments ago. His eyes darted across the article. That morning, an employee had been arrested for poisoning food over the past few days. Several customers had already been hospitalized. Henry's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He remembered the urgent barking, the desperation in the dog's eyes, the way he had grabbed his sleeve to stop him from eating. If Cooper hadn't been there, the world around him seemed to fade away. The clinking of silverware in the restaurant, the aroma of fresh coffee, the weight of the sandwich in his hands. He could relive that moment with absolute clarity. If he had ignored the dog, if he had taken just one bite, he could be dead right now. Henry turned to Cooper, who remained by his side, his gaze calm and unwavering. He saved me." Henry's voice was barely a whisper. The woman swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes." Somehow, he knew. Henry's legs felt weak. His dog, his old friend, Max, had always been his protector, his best friend. And somehow, he had found a way to save him once again. "He saved me, again." Cooper wagged his tail and gently pressed his nose against Henry's leg. Just like Max used to. The woman watched, her expression softening. "You know, I never really believed in fate. But maybe he found you for a reason." Henry met her gaze. "What are you saying?" She let out a small sigh, then smiled. "I'm saying, if you want, he can stay with you." Henry held his breath. "Are you sure?" She smiled warmly. "Yes. It looks like he's already chosen." Henry's heart pounded. He knelt down and ran his hand through the golden fur of the dog, who wagged his tail happily. For the first time in years, Henry didn't feel alone. He couldn't explain it, but somehow, Max had found a way back to him. And in that moment, Henry knew. The name didn't matter. Logic didn't matter. Max was here, and he had come back to make sure Henry stayed alive. The days passed, and Henry never ate alone again. Cooper, or Max, as Henry secretly liked to call him, stayed by his side, walking with him every morning, listening to his stories. The emptiness Henry had carried for so long slowly began to fade. Fate, in its own mysterious and wonderful way, had given him exactly what he needed. And every morning, before stepping out the door, Henry would look down at Cooper and whisper, "Whoever you are, thank you for coming back to me." The dog would wag his tail and press his nose gently against Henry's leg. And Henry knew. He just knew. If you believe in the power of a dog's love and loyalty, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more heartwarming stories. And tell us, have you ever witnessed or heard of a heroic story like Max's? Drop your story in the comments, we'd love to hear it.